So the next of the skills is the ascending small curb. In this case, for the wheelchair skills test, that's 5 centimeters high. It's a useful skill in and of itself because there's often level changes out there in the real and built environment. But in addition to being useful on its own, in its own right, it's a good stepping stone from the gap and the obstacle up to the higher curb. So we like it for both reasons.
So again, for testing purposes, I'm going to start her 1.5 meters away, and she can do whatever she would like. I'm going to, we're going to demonstrate the stationary first. Yeah, whenever you're ready. Good. As far as spotting, once we go to activities where there can be a lateral tip with height, so when we're talking about things like level changes and stairs, the spotter strap itself isn't adequate because the chair can rotate independent of this. So instead, I'm going to use the push handles or back canes if there are no push handles. Worst case scenario, a rigidizing bar, which gets pretty messy as far as spotting, but you want to make sure that you have control of the lateral movement of the chair.
Great.
Okay.
So for training purposes, if Amira had difficulty getting up with the stationary approach.
So I'm going to bop you down here. So what tends to happen, there can be a couple things, but people get to here and they can't get up from there. So what we do is add a little bit of momentum to the stationary approach. And so all that means is, I'm going to get you to put your hands on the front here, a little bit farther back. That's perfect. So what I'm doing is I'm positioning her hands in a way that if she had had them there, she would have had momentum to push up and would have had space with her hands. What often happens, whether it's stationary or momentum, is people's hands run out of room in the push. So I'm going to get you to bring your hands back just to there again. Now, without letting the casters come off the curb, can you roll yourself back as far as you can before the casters come off? Keep coming. Yep. Okay. And now just push forward and lean forward. Okay, great. So what tends to happen when people try to get up any level change is, unfortunately, the instinct is to pull back here and just to push harder. But what happens when people start pulling from back there is all it does is it tips the chair back. It doesn't actually allow the body to move forward and have the trunk weight help with it. So instead, we want to get people used to having their hands here. Keep your hands on the hand rims, pull your wheels back first, and then rock forward and lean. So that is the most common tip that we give people.
Now that's often adequate in and of itself for a low curb, but because we're using it as a building block for a higher curbs when stationary approach doesn't work, that we're going to make sure we get Amira familiar with the momentum approach before we move on.
So the same, again, it's exactly why that building of the foundation is so critical. We want to focus on, when we're doing stationary, that pop, then lean, then we go to momentum. It's coast, pop, and lean. So we're going to do the exact same thing here. We don't want people to start too far away because they all of a sudden their hands get difficult to manage, we'll say. And we don't want to start them too close because they don't have a chance to coast and then get their hands back again. So this is a perfect self-selected distance, Amira. So whenever you're ready. Coast, pop, lean. There you go. So what we'll do with training for that is we will practice that many, many times until there's sort of that perfect mix of the right amount of speed and the right amount of pop. You don't want people popping too high, and if it's too low, their foot plates hit or their casters hit. So we want to make sure that we can do like maybe 5 in a row of just absolutely perfect. Now, as a trainer, you kind of get used to the sounds of what's a good one and what's a bad one as far as timing, caster slap, and all that. If you're newer to it, then just put up a mirror and you can see what's happening.